Hey class, in light of the fact that the research community at the University of Wyoming has suffered the loss of 2 students in recent weeks, I wanted to bring a religious studies perspective to think out loud with you about what it means that we are studying religion in a research university that has just suffered a really tragic loss. That is, when you study religion in the way I've been trained, which is that I don't just go to mosques or churches, but I look broadly across the social landscape and I look at the work that people do that relates to their sense of ultimate significance, then suicide appears on this social landscape as an act of ultimacy, and therefore it is part of how, when I look out at the cultural landscape, I understand that there's religious meaning in suicide. Now, to put it simply, for me, I see religious meanings happening when a person on the landscape determines the 3 most important points that help them understand who they are and what they will do next. And those 3 points are their origin story, their creation story. Where did I come from? The second point is their daily ethics and morals. What is my next step? And the third point that people are triangulating the meaning of their life with is, what is the significance of my death for my community? And so when I put it that way, it's quite clear then that if a member of the community chooses death, that it asks the rest of us to reflect on the question, what is the significance of this death for our community? I'm not a professional counselor. UW has a suicide prevention office. Their phone number is 766-2187, and they have an after-hours number, 766-8989. And that is where one would want to go if one wanted all of the protections and the security of speaking with a professional. And I encourage anyone who would like to discuss the meaning of these suicides for themselves and or any concerns you have with your own thoughts. So what I'm doing is different than that. I'm wanting to think about and reach out to my students at this point, because a research community is a very intense place. We try to uphold the highest standards. We have very challenging levels of responsibility and learning to be done. There are financial issues. There are social issues. We are an intense place. That means that questions of meaning and shocks to the system are felt across the community, and that there can be greater vulnerability here than there are in other more grounded communities. I would like UW to be a place that not only has high research standards, but also compassionate wisdom about how it is to maintain with resilience the lives and joys and experiences of our students. And that's part of why I'm wanting to say something right now. Over time, my participation in the research community has made me stronger. But as an undergraduate, I think it made me quite vulnerable. I had high expectations of myself. There I encountered failures that I had not previously encountered. And the very fact that one is daily exposing oneself to new information creates both a heightened openness, perhaps a heightened reaction to the daily requirement to keep exposing yourself to new information. So we're in an intense place. Do we have enough wisdom that we are helping students make it through that intensity, coming out of this experience stronger? That's what I would like. My years here doesn't make me any less vulnerable to mental illness or to feelings of isolation. And so knowing, again, when you're part of an intense community, it requires having some wisdom to promote the kind of compassion that creates strong members. So I think an important thought here is, let me just ask, do you know where the most dangerous neighborhood in America, actually it's the most dangerous neighborhood in the world. Do you know where that is? It's right here, when any of us are alone in our heads, either trying to protect other people from how dark we think it is, our experience is, if we're trying to protect other people from our humiliations or those kinds of things. So the most dangerous neighborhood in the world. We saw this in the case of the German pilot, that something was going on inside his head that makes no sense to a broader, connected sense of reality. Something is going on in the mind of someone who's choosing suicide. And this is quite interesting because it has something to do with a moment in which they're making a statement, a symbolic statement about the ultimate significance of their place in the world. And this happens in a way on a spectrum of saying, I am utterly insignificant and I'm erasing myself from the social landscape, toward a desire to elevate and have meaning and have a place through the suicide. So you have this, both the possibility of a person wanting erasure and the possibility of a person wanting elevation on that landscape. That's why we look for those letters. We want to know, what was your reason? What message were you sending? So on my screen here is a bit of wisdom from indigenous religious traditions. I want to introduce it as part of the culture of, when you're studying world religions, there is some remarkable wisdom out there that we can leave these classes transformed and stronger with. And this is a moment of, this quote is one of those quotes that helps me move from an internal darkness into a more connected and liberating sense of possibility. So, in many shamanic societies, if you came to a medicine person complaining of being disheartened, dispirited, or depressed, they would ask one of 4 questions. When did you stop dancing? When did you stop singing? When did you stop being enchanted by stories? When did you stop finding comfort in the sweet territory of silence? And I think there's a quite wonderful book called The Solace of Open Spaces, written, and now I'm forgetting the author's name. But Wyoming can offer us a remarkable, sweet territory of silence. But if it's alone in darkness in one's head, Wyoming can be an oppressive place as well. So trying to generate that research community feeling where you would know there can be comfort in the sweet territory of silence. That's part of the kind of community I want to be part of. So I am really sad. I'm really sad that we lost 2 members of our community. And what we know about suicide from years of research is that it is contagious. It's not unusual that one suicide can lead to another. And that's not saying that that was the case here. It's just to let you know there is a contagion factor. To me, it reminds me of the feeling of standing next to the brink of the falls in Yellowstone. That there is the gravity of the water heading over makes my mind ask the question, what kind of freedom do you feel in that fall? And so administrators and instructors, we're all in a tough spot because we don't want to bring everyone to the brink looking at this and entertaining that question. We know it has a kind of contagiousness, but silence or ignoring it is not the best answer either. So a last note here is that from my study of world religions over decades, one of the bits of advice I have for you is that it is good to have a daily moment of reflection. And that could be the place where you try to remember the sweet territory of silence. And you can sit with that. It might be a moment of prayer where you are connecting with a spiritual tradition. But part of what you're doing when you make that moment is you are saying, I make time. You are experiencing yourself as a creative being. And that is good for you. Because we know that time and clocks are trying to run us a lot. And if you would take that time, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and you make time, then you get to experience yourself as someone with agency against the pressure. And the other thing that religious traditions across the cultures tell us is that a weekly gathering that includes dance, that includes singing, and that includes being enchanted by stories, is part of what their liturgies have unfolded. That this stuff is good to do. So I encourage you for the rest of the spring to find once a week a way where you dance, you sing, or you get enchanted by a story. Because these are some of the simplest technologies humans have known for a long time to help move us from an isolated place, a dangerous neighborhood, into participating creatively. I have a song that I wrote when a friend of mine who was a wilderness ranger died in a flight looking for grizzly bear. And the refrain of the song is as much a wolf howl as it is anything. And one of the things I like about a wolf howl is that it is both an expression of grief, but in the very act of howling, you are creatively celebrating your voice. So I want to invite you all to consider the wisdom found in this quote that suggests some dancing, some singing, some being enchanted by stories, and the ability to find comfort in the sweet territory of silence are the kinds of skills, daily practices, that will help you in this intense community. Thanks for listening, and do take care.